Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am going to focus my questions on the housing tax that's being proposed here in these measures. And I cite in the House of Commons the example in British Columbia where there is a municipal tax already on foreign transactions in the housing market of up to 2%, depending on the buyer. Plus, there's a provincial tax of up to 3% for a total of up to 5%. In addition, there's a 20% transfer tax on foreign buyers. And yet, there still is 7.7% of activity in the Vancouver real estate market being consumed by foreign buyers of real estate in Vancouver and the Lower Mainland. So in effect, these small taxes aren't having much of an effect on the buying unless we're looking post facto on this. How do you suppose an extra 1% jurisdictional overreach is going to solve the housing problem in Canada?
Hi there, Mr. Chair. I can take that question. Thank you.
Thank you,
Can you
Mr.
hear me
King.
okay?
Yes, we can.
Just to point out very simply that this is a tax, the purpose of which is to raise revenues, and it's estimated that the tax will raise $735 million in revenues over the next 5 years.
Well, I'm not sure that answered my question at all. So we're talking about raising revenue here in a tax, but let me pull out the absurdity of that, because this is a tax you think you're going to get from foreign buyers, and yet I don't think, have you really thought about how it impacts our trade agreements with other jurisdictions such as the United States? Pardon me, where I should point out the Canadians own a good deal of property.
In terms of the impact on any trade or other agreements we might have, those questions would have to be addressed to the appropriate sections of Justice Canada. I couldn't answer.
Well, okay. Let's not pass the buck here. Let's look at this. This is free trade. A lot of Canadians own property in the United States. If we're going to tax American buyers on their properties in Canada, surely they're going to reciprocate very quickly in taxing Canadians that own property in the United States. That's going to be a tax strain on Canadians. Tell me you've thought about that, please.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chair. Again, I'd reiterate my answer. Any questions about the legality or the trade or any other impacts of that nature?
I'm not talking about legality or trade or anything of that nature. I'm talking about the consideration of how much money is going to come into the Canadian government accounts and how much is going to go into other jurisdictions' accounts because they're reciprocating for a measure we're impacting their citizens with that own property in Canada.
Well, to repeat my initial answer, it's a tax whose estimated revenue yield will be $735 million over the next 5 years.
Okay, well, so $735 million comes into Canadian tax coffers over 5 years, so call it $150 million a year. And you're suggesting that that $150 million won't be drained from Canadians' tax pockets into other jurisdictions that are collecting taxes on Canadians, or will it be actually more that we're actually losing from Canada because of this reciprocity we're going to receive on our tax treaty here?
Mr. Chair, I can't speak to that. I can only give you the estimate that we have in respect of this measure in Bill C-8. It's $735 million over the next 5 years.
With due respect, I mean, the right hand has to know what the left hand is doing in the federal bureaucracy. Can you please figure out how much money we're going to lose to foreign jurisdictions because of a jurisdictional overstep that we're making in this legislation? I'll move on here. We are talking about effectively building taxes here. There's 7 parts in here, one of which, of course, is this overstep in taxing. We do have a housing crisis in Canada. Is there a better way to approach that housing crisis and address the foreign buyers here, which might be better money laundering laws that you can implement at Finance? Is that a possibility you would consider?
MP McLean, maybe you could direct the question to somebody, I don't know, Mr. King, maybe.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions about C-8, the contents of the bill, and none of that is in the current bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. You're right, that isn't in the bill. What is in the bill is an ineffective approach to actually losing Canadians a whole bunch of money on their properties in foreign jurisdictions with very little impact. You're suggesting $750 million over 5 years. I'm trying to understand a little more clearly what your end outcome is here, because right now, again, it seems like virtue signaling that's accomplishing nothing in Canada, but costing Canadians a whole bunch of money.